Hello bookworms, welcome back to my channel and to another book review. It's a few days before Halloween, my favorite time of the year, and today I will be reviewing the one and only The Exorcist by William Peter Blatty. Now I've seen the movie many years ago, but never read the book until now. And I know everyone have heard about this one, but still, as always, let's start with the plot. The book was written and takes place in the 1970s, and in its center is Regan MacNeil, an 11-year-old girl who lives with her mother, actress Chris MacNeil, who notices one day that her daughter suddenly becomes eerily unwell. She takes her to see different doctors and to get many tests done, but they can't find what exactly is wrong with her. As it's getting clearer that there is something very wrong with Regan, Chris starts believing that her daughter might be possessed by an evil spirit and brings a priest, Father Karras, to perform an exorcism on her daughter that would hopefully bring the real Regan back to her. Now let's be honest, everybody's talking about The Exorcist right now. It's Halloween, the original movie is celebrating 50 years, there is a new Exorcist movie that I understand is terrible. But believe it or not, I actually wanted to read The Exorcist for a while now, but I am willing to admit I might have been subliminally swayed by all the online talk about the new movie, who knows. But let's start with the actual review, shall we? I started reading the book and then later I moved to an audiobook because I could not handle the book. It took me a long while and moving to a different media to get into it. And it did grow on me, but I have to say that I do not stand with the huge crowds of devoted fans of The Exorcist. It is a great book and a great movie, let's not ignore that. But honestly, I feel that its fame is its detriment because it hypes you to something a lot more gory than it really is. The book was interesting and creepy, but for me, that was it. It was a slow burn with some really intense, chilling moments, but some were filled with such insufferable characters and strange dialogue. It really took me out of the book and ruined much of my sympathy both for the characters and the story on the whole. But let me first get into what I loved about The Exorcist. As I mentioned, the book really grew on me. I didn't end up loving it, but maybe for me it was just moving from reading to listening. By the way, the version that I listened to was narrated by the author, who had a great voice, but wasn't a good narrator. He couldn't act at all, and all the characters sounded the same, which made dialogue difficult to follow. But if you're interested to hear Blatty himself narrates The Exorcist in a creepy voice second only to Vincent Price, it's actually available on YouTube, so go check it out. So, Blatty's narrating skills may be lacking, but his writing skills were really good and really deep and thrilling. However, I did feel it was a little too heavy at times, like I had more fun reading Grapes of Wrath. And I will get into the parts of the writing I didn't like soon, but descriptions, even mundane things, were just so eerie. You know something bad is approaching. In addition, another really cool element in the book was all the science and medicine in it. When Regan gets sick, it takes a long time until Chris starts thinking it's possession, and so Regan is seen by different doctors. And it felt so realistic. This is an important note because I feel more people have seen the movie rather than read the book, but in the book, up to the last third or so, you really don't know if Regan is simply physically or mentally ill or is she possessed. You see, this book is more of a psychological thriller than a physical horror book. The true scares and terror comes from seeing a loved one being really, really unwell and not knowing what's wrong and not being able to take care of them. From seeing someone so innocent, like a child, becoming a monster that swears, hits, throws up pea soup, and just doing such horrific things and not being able to stop it. But now I do want to share with you some things that really turned me off this book, honestly. First off, I mentioned the writing. At times, it felt so heavy and so overcomplicated that I simply didn't feel like continuing reading. Again, with time, I got used to it, but I still felt like reading was a bit of a chore. I mean, there is making mundane things feel eerie, and there's just overcomplicating things. And then there were the dialogues that didn't really sound like real conversations. It's like a person would say something and then the other person would either answer a completely different question or talk in a completely different tone to the first, like they were acting as if they were in a party where in fact they were at a funeral. Then there was Chris, Reagan's mom. God, I hated her. What a Karen! An entitled, selfish woman, a strong female in the 70s that doesn't understand how money works, an actress diva. And then, I get that she was hysterical and upset because her daughter was sick, but she reminded me of those retail customers that demand your help but at the same time refuse to accept it. I don't know what's wrong with my daughter. Do something now! Well, we need to do some tests to see what's wrong with her. But what are you giving her? Why are you testing? What's wrong with her? Do something now! We can't take care of her until we do some tests, ma'am. But what is wrong with my daughter, god damn it? By the way, are you sure she doesn't need a psychiatrist? I don't know what life was like in the 70s, but why was she so obsessed with sending her daughter to the psychiatrist after, like, 3 doctors told her it wasn't necessary? Whatever. Point is, I hated Chris. Lastly, I do want to talk just a little bit about the movie because, let's face it, it's the more famous version. Now, the interesting is that William Peter Blatty didn't just write the book, but also the movie, because the two are very different. Their focus, their tone, their pacing. The book is a lot more psychological and regards Reagan's illness as a possible brain injury or mental illness for most of its runtime. In the movie, we can see that the possession is indeed real, but in the book, even when Father Karras, who is a priest and a psychiatrist, performs the exorcism, it's mostly because he doesn't believe she is really possessed and instead just wants to play Reagan's game and pretend to believe the possession. But let's wrap things up because I feel this video might get unnecessarily long. Look, there are many people out there who truly and sincerely love and respect this novel, and there are many people out there that I believe love this book because they are supposed to. It's hard not to be influenced by so many people who are telling you how brilliant this book is, which is why I try not to read reviews, at least not in depth, before I form and write down my own opinion. Because how can you say you don't like a revered book like The Exorcist? Surely, if you don't like it, you just didn't get it. You just didn't understand its true meaning. It's something I've been told many times when I dare criticize a beloved book, and quite honestly, I'm sick and tired of this notion. Stop using this excuse to bring down people just because they didn't like something you did. That is, however, not to say that I disliked The Exorcist, okay? I just didn't love it as much as other people. I don't have neither the admiration nor the reverence for it. So to actually conclude, this book is a great psychological thriller, albeit at times I felt it went either a little too over-the-top complicated and therefore felt kind of like a parody of itself, or at times went too light with ridiculous over-the-top comedic part. But the Goldilocks bit were just right and superb. I love the aspect of Reagan's deterioration and the frustration of not knowing what on earth and hell is going on and how to stop it. It really reminded me of the book A Head Full of Ghosts, which was also very creepy, and maybe due to it being a bit more modern, in my opinion, managed to have more effective emotional and horrific parts. I just didn't connect to The Exorcist as much. So guys, that was my review on The Exorcist. Thank you for watching my unpopular opinion. If you like my review, even if you disagree with it, which I completely respect. Don't forget to like it, share it, and also subscribe to my channel so that you won't miss any other bookish video I upload. Also, write me a comment saying if you like The Exorcist, book or movie, and what other books you feel people put on a pedestal. Guys, again, thank you for watching, and I'll see you on my next video. Bye bye.